though, do it. Yeah, the body knows, bro. And that's why, I'm always talking about Star Wars, but, at the end of Star Wars, the original, Luke turns off his targeting computer, right? And who comes in at the last second to save the day but Han Solo and Chewbacca, who in my mythology is the body and the emotions. So your body and your emotions come into an alignment. That's why I love Star Wars, not because of anything they've done in the last 20 years, but because he nailed the archetypes. The archetypes are perfect in those movies. Like, if somebody can point out a flaw, I would love to hear it. Star Wars is not going to be for everybody, especially because it feels kind of dated nowadays. But, the Rescue the Princess video, I don't know if you've watched it, but it's pretty basic. I mean, it's the hero's journey. It's like a pattern, in nature. It's rescue your mind from the prison of your culture. Defeat your fear of death. That's defeating the Death Star, and then face your dark side. I mean, that's the story of Star Wars. They don't say to Luke, go kill Darth Vader. They don't say to go kill him. They say you have to face him. And that's because we all have a dark side that we have to face and we have to integrate. And I think for anybody who's interested in that, I think Carl Jung probably did the most comprehensive work on that. I'm sure there's others. And I think analyzing dreams, I think meditation, all these things are just tools that you need to have in your toolkit, I think you got to watch it with this philosophical angle in mind, that Luke is supposed to be you. Your mind's been captured by this imperial empire, this rigid authoritarian structure, which is your culture and your government. I mean, all cultures and governments are rigid and authoritarian by nature. That doesn't mean that they can feel like there's law and order. Like, we're going to have laws, even if your culture isn't authoritarian in the way we normally think of authoritarianism. It's still authoritarian in the sense that it's giving you these commands to live by. So, all cultures are authoritarian in that sense, and they all want you to conform. And you're brought up with it before you even realize what it is. And so, you do have to kind of free yourself from this. It's really a prison of the ego that you constructed, and your parents played a role in it, your culture played a role in it. And I think in order to be like whatever it means to be an adult, that's part of what it means, is that you've shed this cocoon of your ego and you see it for what it is. You don't get confused about what your thoughts are. You're going to have intrusive thoughts. You're going to have thoughts that you wonder where they come from. You don't identify with the thoughts. You just allow them to flow, and you don't hold on to them, and you don't give them any more weight than they deserve. I always loved this idea that the ancient Egyptians looked at thoughts as like a sense rather than something that you're doing, meaning that you've got inputs coming into your eyes through sight, you've got input coming into your ears through your hearing, and you don't think that you're producing those things. It's just, your eyes are taking in the light, and your thoughts are similar. Like, your thoughts are going to come into your head from literally out of nowhere, apparently. But they're not you, and any more than, the things that you hear are you, and as your eyes can play tricks on you. You can think that you hear a baby crying, but it turns out it was a cat or whatever. Your mind can play tricks on you too. And I think that's the ultimate lesson of humanity, is like, your mind will play tricks on you. And I think, in Star Wars, Obi-Wan at one point says, your eyes can deceive you, don't trust them. And that's another way of saying that, Obi-Wan wants him to put on this helmet so that he can't see. And he's like, how am I supposed to fight? I can't see. And he says, your eyes can trick you, don't trust them. And that's another thing with Star Wars. A lot of it, it's about, feel the force around you. And I feel like our emotions, I struggle with that one, like what is the message there? But because your emotions can lead you astray in a similar way that your thoughts can, and I do, I guess I suspect that it's because you use your ego to interpret the emotion. So it's like I tend to think that the emotions, whatever emotions you're feeling, are real. They're being caused by something. It's just a matter of how do you interpret what is causing this emotional feeling. Whether we're talking about emotion as like an emotional state, or we're talking about feeling as in like a feeling in the body. Like you might feel like you're hungry, you might feel like a certain way, but it turns out it was just gas, whatever. If that's the best way to think about it, but I think you get what I'm saying. I mean, the mind is not a computer, but it's like a computer. And that's why, I know you've not seen Star Wars, but C-3PO is a good example of what I think the mind as a machine sort of does. It calculates, it translates. And I think you notice that when you are having thoughts, like you're being judgmental of people, it's like your mind's calculating these things. It's comparing this to that, I think you notice that a lot with, in order to make a comparison, you have to have some kind of judgment on something, and then the ego is really good at that. Like I said earlier, the ego was built by a child. You were a child when this thing started to form. And if you're still trusting it as an adult, you're going to, I really feel like you're going to run into trouble. And it might not be obvious at first. You could make it into your 30s and 40s, maybe, with minimal scrapes and injuries. But if you don't have the right attitude about the ego, I feel like, at some point, that timeline is going to shrink. And I know a lot of people who are older, who somebody earlier said, the ego it like crystallizes if you don't come out of it. And I think, you can become trapped in it. I know that was my situation for most of my life. I was trapped by the ego.